right? So this is how you do it: File, New Project, Visual C Sharp, and Windows Forms application. You click this, and you can see this window at the back. A blank window, which is basically a solution designer window. We call this a solution designer window. We can design our solution graphically. The interface we can design graphically. And if you look at your right hand side, this calls Solution Explorer. This window is called Solution Explorer. The left side is called the design view. We are looking at our program through the design perspective, how we can design this. Now we click on each and everything. There are some properties which you will see below: the color, the cursor. Like this is a blank window. This means your program does nothing, but there is one form inside this. An empty form. There is nothing inside this, but there is an empty window. Empty window, and the name of the window is form1. This means when I run this, start without debugging, there is an empty window in my application that does nothing, but there is one window. So the window is form1. So I can modify many properties of this window from here. If you see this property window, there is a text property over here. You see this text property, and its name is form1. I can modify this, give it calculate salary. So this becomes on the top, calculate salary. Now when I run this, it will be calculate salary program. So I will know the name of my application. And there are many more things in the properties which I can select and modify. For example, background color. I'd like to change. Can you guys see this? Am I obstructing in between? Is it okay? Alright, so the background color, if you click on this, you have many kinds of themes. You can select some colors, custom colors also. We can select some from the web style also. But let's go with this active caption. I like this more. So the color of my Windows application windows will be this active caption. Okay, now let me do this. When I select to create an application, I need to have a window, and this is what I'm planning right now. The window should be looking like this. Should be hours. Sorry. And somewhere over here to show the total. So this is a simple program. I'm taking the input from a user, and I will do some calculation and show the result. Just simple mathematics. How can I achieve this? There is a toolbox window. If you go to view, there's a toolbox, not toolbar. Don't confuse it with toolbar. This is your toolbar. What you see over here is your menu toolbar, but we would like to go to toolbox. In toolbox, we have many categories. We have many. Let me go on the top, and then I'll show you something. So these are my many categories. You know what category is? Anwa, right? These categories are showing me different kinds of graphical user interface elements, tooltip, text box, label, button, picture holder, many things over here. So actually, there are hundreds of things, not something which I cannot count on my fingers. There are hundreds and hundreds of things to connect your database, some containers, file opener, etc., for printer, for pop-up. So let's also look at this. This is called a search toolbox. If you don't find anything inside this, you find it difficult to open these categories, you can just write over here, say I need to find a text box, TEXT. It will show you everything matching text box, rich text box, mask text box, etc. So this was just an introduction. Let me open common controls. The first few GUI elements, the graphical user interface elements we will be picking up will be from here. Common controls. Inside these common controls you will see there is something called label. This label is just a text. It is not input. It is not any component, just a text. You drag and drop it over there. Simply drag and drop it over there. And the names we should be using for our labels are hours. So you click on this and write hours. And that's all. Okay, not the color. I'd like to change the text. Come down and see the text. For the label, okay. Label 1, we'd like to change it to hours. There should be some more. Okay, let me do this. Label 1. So I need to go to the text. What happens is there are three things for every property. One is accessible name, another is just name, and third is text. If you see these properties, we need to for every GUI component we need to use these according to our requirement. So there is something called accessible name through which I can use it in the programming, and then there is this text. So this is what I need to change, hours. And label 2 also I need to change to rate. So I got two things over here, hours and rate. Now if this looks very small, I can again go to the properties, change the font. You see this is my font. You click on this and there is something like an elliptical. This is like a browse button. You click here and you can increase or decrease the size, make it bold. I'd like to increase the size only, I think 14, and use Times New Roman if you'd like to, 16. That makes it better. Yeah, do that again for rate. Click on this button, Times New Roman, 16. That's better. Okay, so now I have two things on my window. I need to drag and drop two text boxes also. When I drag and drop two text boxes, I will allow the user to input something. So I drag a text box and I place it over here, and I drag another text box and I place it over here. So I've got two text boxes now to allow the user to input data. First text box I will be using for hours, for allowing the user to input hours. Now remember the name of this guy, whichever component you are selecting, text box or label, and this another text box, another label, is for us to remember better what this label is and what this label is for. And in programming, when you're selecting this component and when you're manipulating these components doing calculation, you can remember this better. By default, Visual C# don't know what is in your mind, so it gives it label like label 5, label 6, text box 1, text box 2. But if you change the name to from text box 1 to hours, then it will make more sense when you're programming also. You don't have to remember every time text box 1 is what, hours. So instead of remembering that, I click here and I change the name of this guy to, instead of text box 1, I will change the name to something I can remember, which is TX hours. The reason I'm using TX hours is when I'm doing programming, I will remember it's a text box. Because related to hours, there's a label also, you see. So I cannot even just give it hours. I can if I want to, but to make my life easier, to make it more easy to remember, I will give this one something like LB hours and this one like TX hours. So I remember this is label hours and this is text box hours. Similarly, I will move forward for the rate also. I'll change the name from text box 2 to TX rate. Now these are my own selected names. You can use any names. Don't just follow this theme. But as a recommendation, I'm telling, when you're programming, you will remember these better. TX, it will point you directly towards the fact that this is a text box, and this is for rate. So now let's save this. Start building. So now I have a window which takes two things, hours and rate. Now next thing I need to do is have a button, calculate, and then show the result. So let's do that very quickly. There's a button component, drag and drop over here. In the name, calculate. I need to write btn calculate, but what should be displayed over here is something different. The name is btn calculate. The name of this window, this component is btn calculate, meaning the variable name. But the text written over here is different. It should be modified in text separately. So if you browse through the text, this is the text property, and the value of the text property should be, what should be the value? Calculate. Yes. Meaning, what should I display? It's asking what should I display on this button. So now I can also do many things on this button. I can modify the fonts, how the calculate should appear. It should be red color, blue color, default color, which size, etc. The background color. So all of those things for this button I can use and modify from here. Okay, I've got one button, and in the end I should have what? The total. So I will pick up a label again. Right over here, the text should be total, and make it slightly bigger size because this is the end result. Go to fonts, Times New Roman 20, total, and here apart from total there should be another label showing how much is the total now. So this total right now is 0. So let's go to text, write 0.0 and give it a name so we can refer it in programming when we are doing calculation. The name should be LB total. So why we didn't give a custom name to this? Because we are not using in programming. We will not do anything with this. We will not do anything with this. We will not do anything with this. What we would need to refer in programming will be this text box to get its value, this text box to get its value, what the user entered, and this button to detect that the user clicked on this, and this one to display a new value every time the user clicks on calculate. So this one, these four we should give a new name, the name we should remember in the programming. So let's verify 0.0 is giving LBL total. Okay, and the text is 0.0. Now it looks like the interface is complete. I can write something over here, some number of hours, rate, calculate. It does nothing because I have not programmed. I have not programmed the button to do anything, or this window application to do anything. That's the last thing for me to do. So I click on calculate. Actually, I double click on calculate. Let's get rid of this. And here is where I will do the calculation. So how you can do the calculation? Number one, I need to declare and define a variable for both of these, hours and rate. Okay, int hours is equal to, the value should be coming from where? The text box. So when you click on this, let me tell you, when you click on this, now we are defining the behavior. What happens when the user clicks on this? This is what we are doing. So what I'm saying is, this is the block of code, this is the function which will be executed when a user clicks on this. It will start from here and it will end here between the curly braces. This is what it is saying. Inside this, right now nothing is happening. This is what I'm trying to program. If you look at this, private void btn calculate, it's a method, and you don't need to go into details, but just you click on this calculate, it will bring you where you have to modify the code. It will bring you where you have to write the intelligence. Over here you have to do this calculation. Before calculation, you need to convert the strings to integer. Remember, the user writes string and we have to convert this. Remember, last week we did the conversion from string to integer. So this is what we have to do. Int hours is equal to convert the string to integer. Which string? This string. Whoever enters over here, whatever is entered over here, should be read and convert into the string. So the name of this guy over here is, remember what? TX hours, right? TX hours, and it will give you suggestion also. Hours dot text convert to int. So if you have any confusion, or if you're not sure you're doing this correctly, you can print this out by writing this. Do you remember how you print out? Console dot write line. We can make us forget everything. Console dot write line hours. So this way you can see that the conversion is correct. So let's start without debugging. Hours 35, and then just calculate. Okay, so this is my forms application. There is not a console. I have to close this and go to console. So let's you can also do that, but let's just disable this, and I will finish this first and then we'll go to the console. Int rate is equal to, again we will do the same thing, convert to int. Why we are converting this to integer? Because hours is an integer, rate is an integer. Tx rate dot text. This means to pick up the text value of the text box rate. This means pick up the text value of the text box hours, whatever the user has entered over there. So once we've got this, so let's get rid of this. I'll get to here later on. I need to have another variable which should be storing the multiplied result. So integer total value is equal to hours multiplied by rate. This is how you calculate the salary if you know the rate and the number of hours worked. So this is my total salary which should be displayed. So LB total dot text is how you refer the GUI component is equal to total value. Stop, save, and you're done. The application is now ready. Go back to debug, start with our debug. Some errors, let's look at what the errors are. Cannot convert type to string, correct. So now when the text, this is the text, we have defined this as text. Everything coming is input and going as output is always text. So now we have done some calculation which is an integer, numbers. Again we have to convert this back to what? String. So we convert, when we took input from the user, we converted it from string to integer. Now we have to convert this from integer to string. So convert dot to string, and you save this. And the solution, debug, start with our debugging. So now there are no errors. First thing is how much somebody worked, how many hours. For example, 20 hours. Rate is, for example, 500 per hour. So this should make what? Approximately 10,000. So this is the calculation.